Hello and welcome to a GCSE Maths walkthrough, and we're going to be focusing on the 2023 series of papers, and for this video we'll be looking at paper 2, which is the first calculator paper, and this is going to be the foundation tier. So I have got another video on the higher tier, and I'm also going to be doing paper 3 for both the foundation and higher tiers. Now all of these papers are taken from Maths Genie, so please have a look for those papers. I have left a link in the video description which will take you straight to that paper. And I always think the best way for this to work, and the best way to help you, is for if you have a go at doing the paper yourself, and if you do get stuck, you can have a look through all of my workings out in this video. Now just before we start, a couple of other important things to mention. First of all, please make sure you've got all of the correct equipment. Okay, this is really important because you could lose crucial marks just because, for example, you don't have a ruler. Okay, so a ruler, a protractor, a pair of compasses, a pen, a pencil, an eraser or a rubber, and a calculator. And tracing paper will be provided, but just make sure you ask for it in the exam. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these instructions because they're quite obvious. Just a couple of things to point out. First of all, diagrams are not drawn accurately unless otherwise indicated. So if you have a diagram, don't assume that, for example, the angles are accurate. Okay, unless it specifically says that it's drawn accurately, assume that it's not. Okay, and probably the most important thing, let me just highlight this with a different color. Please make sure you show all your workings. Okay, your teachers probably go on about this all the time, but it's one of the most important things to do, because like they always say, even if you get the wrong answer, if most of your working out is correct, then you will still pick up lots and lots of marks. Okay, now with that all out of the way, let's get cracking. Okay, question 1. Write 0.83 as a fraction. Now, if this were a non-calculator paper, we could just do our workings here. But because this is a calculator paper, just take advantage of the fact that we've got a calculator. All we need to do is type in 0.83 on our calculator and press equals, and you can see that it does it for us. So our answer is 83 out of 100. Okay, anytime you type something into a calculator and press equals, the answer will always give you a fraction if it's not a whole number. Okay, so just take advantage of the calculator. Question 2. Write down the value of the 7 in the number 5791. So let's just write it down here, 5791. So how would we say this number? Well, we would say 5791. So the 7, well, that represents the hundreds column. So the value of the 7, well, that represents 7 hundreds. So it is 700 as our answer, and that will be worth 1 mark. Question 3. What is the time 2 hours 25 minutes after 9:15 a.m.? So let's write down our time at the moment. So it's 9:15 a.m. at the moment. So 2 hours 25 minutes after this time. So let's just split this up. First of all, 2 hours after this time. So that's going to be 11:15 a.m. That's 2 hours. And then we've got another 25 minutes to add on. So we just need to do 15 plus 25. Let's just use our calculator. 15 plus 25, and that is 40. So it's going to be 11:40, and it's still AM. And you can see we don't need to write AM because it's got it in our answer line. So this is our answer, 11:40. 11:40, and that is also worth 1 mark. Question 4. Write down a multiple of 6 that is between 40 and 50. So let's think about our multiples of 6. So anything in the 6 times table. So our first multiple of 6 is 6. And then 6 times 2 is 12. 6 times 3 is 18. 6 times 4 is 24. 6 times 5 is 30. We're getting close. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 7 is 42. And we don't need to go any further because we have found an answer. Okay, 42 is definitely between 40 and 50. So my answer is going to be 42. If you did go on, the next one, 6 times 8 would be 48. So that would also be a valid answer. So either one of these will give you the 1 mark. Question 5. Change 270 meters into kilometers. So for this question, you need to know your conversions between meters and kilometers. And there are 1,000 meters in a kilometer. So whatever value we've got, we need to divide by 1,000. The reason why we're dividing is because kilometers are bigger, so there's going to be less of them. So we're going to do 270 divided by 1,000. Let's just type that into the calculator. 270 divided by 1,000. Notice it gives our answer as a fraction, so we just press this SD button and that will convert it to a decimal. So that would be 0.27 kilometers. And we don't need to write kilometers down here because it's already given to us, so we just need to put 0.27. You would also still get a mark if you left it as a fraction, so you could write 27 over 100, but it's probably a lot neater writing it as a decimal, and that is also 1 mark. Question 6. The diagram shows a rectangle, which we can see is 21 meters wide by 15 meters tall. On the centimetre grid below, draw an accurate scale drawing of this rectangle. Use a scale of 1 centimetre to represent 3 metres. So we've been given our scale. So our scale is 1 centimetre to 3 metres. And we've been given the measurements of the rectangle. So we can work out what the measurements of the scale drawing will be using this scale here. So 21 metres and 15 metres. What are our 2 mystery measurements going to be for our scale? Well, you can see that our scale, 1 centimetre is 3 metres, so we are just going to divide by 3. So 21 divided by 3, well, that's going to be 7, and we're going from metres to centimetres, so that's 7 centimetres. And 15 divided by 3, well, that is 5. That's going to be 5 centimetres. So it's 7 centimetres wide by 5 centimetres tall. So let me just get my line tool out. So we're going along 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, I don't need a ruler because I know that each of these squares is 1 centimetre. And then we're going to go down 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. And now I can just finish it off. That. Finally, just bringing it up like that. Now you don't need to label any of these dimensions down here. This is absolutely fine and that will give you 2 marks. Question 7. Wasim is going to have a meal. He can choose 1 starter and 1 main course from the menu, which we can see here. Write down all of the possible combinations Wasim can choose. Now I like these questions where you've got different combinations, and the key to this is being systematic about it. Okay, so he chooses 1 starter and 1 main. So he can choose, let's say he chooses olives first and then lasagna for his main. Okay, so that's 1 combination. Now if we stick with the theme of olives, let's say he still chooses olives, but this time he has pasta for his main. And then let's say he still chooses olives and then his main is going to be salad. So those are all the combinations with olives as the starter. Now let's move on to the dough balls. So now he has dough balls for his starter and lasagna for his main, and then dough balls and pizza, and then finally dough balls and salad. Now let's move on to bruschetta. So he has bruschetta and then lasagna, bruschetta and pizza, and finally bruschetta and salad. Now this should be fine to give you your 2 marks. You can see there's 9 combinations, but I would probably just make a key just to make it clear what each one is. So next to these names, I'm just going to write what the letters are. So olives, I'm just going to say O, dough balls D, bruschetta B, lasagna L, pizza P, and salad S. Just so the examiner, when they're seeing, they can see what each of these letters corresponds to. Question 8. Fran is watching a film at the cinema. The film started at 1740 and the film is 108 minutes long. When the film ends, Fran takes 15 minutes to get to the bus stop. A bus stop leaves the bus stop at 19:45. Does Fran get to the bus stop in time to get this bus? You must show all your workings. Now this is worth 3 marks. So let's start at the top. The film started at 1740. So let's write that down. So 1740. and the film is 108 minutes long. So we need to work out what time the film ends. So let's break it down. So first of all, what do we need to do to get to 1800 hours? So to get to 1800 hours, well, we need to add on 20 minutes. So 1800 hours, that would be 20 minutes. So if the film was 108 minutes long, 108 take away 20, well, that leaves us with 88. So we've still got 88 minutes left of the film. So if we're only 20 minutes into the film, we've still got 88 minutes left. Now let's split it up in, let's do another hour. So let's take ourselves to 1900 hours. Well, that's another 60 minutes. Okay, so now if we were at 88 minus 60, we've now got 28 minutes left. Okay, we've got 28 minutes left. So what does that take us to? Well, that takes us to 1928. So if we add on 28 minutes, it now takes us to 1928. Notice how I'm just splitting up 108 into these sections just to make it easier to add up. So now I'm at 1928. When the film ends, Fran takes 15 minutes to get to the bus stop. So we need to add on 15 minutes. Okay, so it's going to definitely be 19. So what's 28 plus 15? Let's just put that into the calculator. 28 plus 15, that gives us 43. And now we're at 1943. So she gets to the bus stop at 1943 and the bus leaves at 1945. So she has 2 minutes to spare. So if we just look at the question, okay, make sure we answer the question that it's asking. So does Fran get to the bus stop in time to get this bus? Well, we could say yes. And then we can also say she has 2 minutes to spare. Okay, she has 2 minutes to spare. So make sure you say yes. If you don't say yes, if you just say that she's got 2 minutes to spare, you might not get full marks. So make sure you definitely say yes. You're answering the question, and then just say that she's got 2 minutes to spare, or you could say that she gets there at 1943, which is before 1945. Anything like that will be sufficient. Question 9. A baker has 3 bags of flour, A, B and C. Bag A and bag B contain the same amount of flour, and bag C contains 980 grams of flour. In the 3 bags, there is a total of 2,600 grams of flour. Work out the amount of flour in bag A. And this is worth 3 marks. So we know how much flour there is in bag C, 980, and we know the total is 2,600. So we can work out the remainder just by subtracting 980 from 2,600. So if we do 2,600, subtract 980, so let's pop that into the calculator, 2,600 minus 980, and we get 1,620 grams. So that value is the remainder. So that is bag A and B. So I'm just going to put that in brackets. Bag A plus bag B. Now we're also told that bag A and bag B contain the same amount of flour. So if this is split up evenly, we can work out how much each one is in each bag. So to do that, we can just divide this by 2 because they're exactly the same. So we can do 1,620 divided by 2. So all I need to do, because it's already got it saved, I can just press divide by 2. And we get 810 grams. 810 grams. And that is bag A and bag B. So each one of those is 810. So if it says work out the amount of flour in bag A, well, that is bag A. 810 grams. So let's just pop it down here. I don't need to write grams because it's already given to us. Question 10. Here are the first 5 terms of a sequence. 1, 4, 9, 16 and 25. Write down the next 2 terms of the sequence. So let's just write our numbers down here. So we've got 1, 4, 9, 16 and 25. Now, what are we doing to go from one term to the next? Well, to go from 1 to 4, well, we are adding 3. To go from 4 to 9, we're adding 5. To go from 9 to 16, we're adding 7. And to go from 16 to 25, we're adding 9. So hopefully you can spot a pattern here, that we're adding 2 more each time. So for the next number, we should be adding 11, because we're just adding 2 more each time. So 25 plus 11, well, that will give us 36. And then the next term in the sequence, well, we'll be adding on 2 more than 11, so we'll be adding on 13. And 36 plus 13 is 49. So these are our 2 next terms. So we've got 36 and 49. You may have also noticed that these are square numbers. So this is 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25. So the next 2 terms will be 6 squared, which is 36, and 7 squared, which is 49. So either way, you should get these 2 numbers as your answers. Question 11. Ashley counted the number of beads of each colour in a bag, and here are the results. Ashley drew this bar chart to show the number of beads of each colour. The bar chart is not fully correct. Write down 2 things that are wrong with Ashley's bar chart. So we've been given the data here, and he's put it in a bar chart, but there's 2 things that are wrong. So first of all, let's just check the numbers. So red 4, well, that's correct. Blue 8, that's correct. Green 2, that's correct. So all the heights are correct. Now let's have a look at the axis. So we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So that's definitely wrong there. So he's missed off 5. So the first thing we can say that's wrong with it is he has missed off 5 on the y, we could just say y-axis. So that's one thing that's wrong. It's missed off 5. 6, 7, 8, 9. So the rest of that is 5. Now the other thing that's wrong with it, something that's jumping out at me, is we can see these categories are labelled, but this axis hasn't been labelled. We don't know what these numbers refer to. Do they mean the number of sheep, the number of bananas? So, we need a bit of context. So what is this? We're told in the question that it's the number of beads. So this here, number of beads, that should be on this axis, just to tell us what these numbers refer to. So we can say that he hasn't labelled the y-axis, and then we could say it should say number of beads. And it doesn't look like there's anything else wrong with the bar chart, so you have to say both of these things here. You could say them in slightly different words, but these 2 errors are the ones that you need to get your 2 marks. Question 12. Julian thinks of a number. 2/3 of Julian's number is 42. Work out 3/7 of Julia's number. So the first thing to do is to actually work out what Julian's number is. So we've got 2/3 of something is equal to 42. Now another way of saying that is 2/3 times something is equal to 42. So we need to work out what this missing number is. So we're just working backwards. So if we've got something times something equals 42, to work out what this missing number is, we would just divide. We're just going to do the inverse operation. So it would be 42 divided by 2/3. That will tell us what our missing number is. And we can just use a calculator for that. So 42 divided by, if we get our fraction button out, 2/3, and we get 63. So the missing number is 63, and we can sort of check that. So 2/3 of 63, just to check that, we would do 2/3 times 63. Let's just pop that into the calculator. 2/3 times 63, and we should get 42, and yes we do. So the number, Julian's number is 63. Now we need to do the second part, work out 3/7 of Julia's number, or Julian's number I should say. So we're going to do 3/7 times 63. Oh sorry, I forgot to put 42 there. Okay, so let's just type that into the calculator. 3/7 times 63, and we get 27. So that is our answer, 27. So these questions can be tricky when you're working backwards, because a lot of people will see this and just say, well, what is 2/3 of 42? But it's not 2/3 of 42, it's 2/3 of something equals 42. So you have to work backwards and do 42 divided by 2/3. Question 13. The diagram shows a right angle triangle and a trapezium. The area of the trapezium is 5 times the area of the triangle. The perpendicular height of the trapezium, that's this height here, is h centimeters. Find the value of h. So we need to work out the height of our trapezium. So we know it's 5 times bigger than the area of the triangle. We can work out the area of the triangle. So the area of the triangle, let's just write it down here. So area of a triangle, well, it's half times the base times the height. That is the formula to work out the area of a triangle. So it's going to be a half times the base, which is 7, times the height, which is 12. So we can just put that into the calculator. So 0.5 times 7 times 12. And that gives us 42. So that is 42. And our units are in centimetres. So it's going to be centimetres squared. So that is the area of the triangle. And the area of the trapezium, well, this is 5 times bigger than the area of the triangle. So that's going to be 42 times 5. So we've got 42 here, so we just need to times that by 5, and we get 210. So that's 210 centimetres squared. Now, we know the area, but we need to work out the height. So we are working backwards. So we need to think about how we actually work out the area of a trapezium. And let me just check, because I think at the beginning of the paper, you might be told how to calculate the area of a trapezium. Yes, you are. You are given the formula, which is quite handy. So I'm just going to write it down here. So area of trapezium. So this is on the page just before you start. So it's a half times a plus b. So it would be, when it says a plus b, that just means the parallel sides. So you add together the parallel sides. So 12 plus 18, and then you half it, and then you times by the height. So let's add our parallel sides. So 12 plus 18, that's 30. And then we take half of that. So 30 divided by 2 is 15. So it's 15 times the height. And we know that that equals 210 centimetres squared. So to work out the height, well, we're just going to divide by 15. So we could, let me just write out the formula for this. So it's going to be 15 times the height is equal to 210. So to work out the height, we just divide by 15. So we're going to do 210 divided by 15, and we get 14. It's always nice when you see an integer answer. You should be quite confident that you've got the right answer. So that's 14 centimetres. And we don't need to write. Yes, we should write centimetres because it's not given to. Well, actually, we don't need to, because otherwise it would say 14 centimetres for h centimetres. So 14 centimetres. So you don't need to write centimetres, you just need to write 14. But you won't lose any marks if you include centimetres. That's sort of what I'm trying to say. So 14 is the correct answer. Question 14. There are only 5 blue cards, 2 green cards, and 4 red cards in a pack. Louisa is going to take at random 1 card from the pack. Write down the probability that Louisa will take a red card. So how many red cards are there in the pack? Well, there's 4 red cards. 4 red. Out of the total, so whenever you're calculating the probability, it's always the thing that you're interested in out of the total number. So we've got 5 blue, 2 green, and 4 red. So 5 plus 2 is 7, 7 plus 4 is 11. So there's 11 total. So the probability, well, it's just going to be 4 out of 11. That's all we need to do. And we can't simplify that. We don't need to simplify probabilities anyway, but that is our answer. Our answer is 4 out of 11. Bruno is going to throw a biased dice once. The probability that the dice will land on 6 is 0.34. what is the probability that the dice will not land on 6? So it's a biased dice, so it's not going to be even for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. We can see that probability for 6 is this. So anything else we need to take away from 1. Okay, because remember, all probabilities will add up to 1 in total. So if it's 6, it's 0.34, and if it's not 6, it will be whatever's left over from 1. So we need to do 1 minus 0.34. So let's just type that into the calculator. 1 minus 0.34, and notice it gives it to us as a fraction. You wouldn't be wrong if you were to write this in, but I just want to write it as a decimal because the question's been given as a decimal. So that is 0.66. So that is our answer, 0.66. So the key with this question is if you've got the probability of something, the probability of it not happening, well, you just take 1 and you take away the probability of it happening, and that will give you your answer. Question 15. The table shows information about the number of goals scored by a football team in 200 matches. Work out the total number of goals scored by the team in all 200 matches. So how many goals did they score overall? Well, first of all, if we just interpret what the table is telling us. So this table is saying that in 55 matches, they didn't score any goals. In 52 matches, they scored 1 goal. In 43 matches, they scored 2 goals in each match. In 41 matches, they scored 3 goals. And in 9 matches, they scored 4 goals. So we can work out the total number of goals. So in those 55 matches, they didn't score any goals. So that's no goals in total. In 52 matches, they scored 1 goal. So that's a total of 52 goals. Now, in 43 matches, they scored 2 goals in each match. So how many goals is that overall? Well, if they scored 2 goals in each match, and there's 43 of them, well, that's going to be 43 times 2, which is 86. In 41 matches, they scored 3 goals. Well, to work out the total number, we just need to do 41 times 3. So 41 times 3, that gives us 123 goals. And in 9 of those matches, they scored 4 goals. So the total number of goals scored in these 9 matches will be 9 times 4, which is 36. So we just need to add up all of these now to get our grand total. So we need to do 52 plus 86 plus 123 plus 36. And we get 297. So in total, they scored 297 goals. So part B, it says find the median number of goals scored by the football team. So what do we mean by this? Well, if we were to line up all of the goals, so 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 55 times, and then all the 1s, and then all the 2s, and then all the 3s, then all the 4s, if we were to line up all 200, because there's 200 matches, how many goals will there be in the middle? Okay, so, you know, we could do a list like this, etc., until we got to, until we got to the final ones. So all 200, we could line up all 200 and then look at the one right in the middle, but that take quite a long time. We can just do that using this table. So we know that there's 200 matches in total. The first 55, well, that's definitely not going to be in the middle. So we're going to be looking at approximately the 100th match. So we just look at the 100th match. It's actually not going to be exactly the 100th match. It's going to be between the 100th match and the 101st match. And you don't really need to worry about that too much in this video. But if you are interested in why that's the case, I do have a video on my channel dedicated to that. So these are it's definitely not going to be this category because we've got 55. Now this category here, this is going to be everything sort of another 52 matches on top of that. So if we add these together, 55 plus 52, that's going to be 107. So effectively, it's going to be everything from 56 to 107, and we can see that that will be included. 100 will fit in this category. It's going to be somewhere towards the end of this category, but it will be this category. So how many goals were scored? Well, there was 1 goal. Okay, so our answer is 1. Be really careful, because a lot of people write down sort of like 52 as the answer, but that's not the answer. It's the median number of goals. So we have to look in this column here. Question 16. Pens and pencils are sold in a shop. 8 pencils cost £1.92. The ratio of the cost of a pen to the cost of a pencil is 4:3. Work out the cost of 5 pens. And this is worth 4 marks. So first of all, we're told that 8 pencils cost £1.92. So we can work out the cost of each pencil. We can just do 1.92 divided by 8. That would tell us the cost per pencil. So 1.92 divided by 8. And that gives us 0.24, which essentially is the same as 24p if we put it in pence. So that is the cost of a pencil. And we're also told the ratio of the cost of a pen to a cost of a pencil. So let's write this up here. So we need to make sure the order is correct. So pen to pencil. Pen to pencil is 4:3. And we know the cost of a pencil. So the pencil is 24p. So we can work out the cost of a pen using this information. So notice, to go from 3 to 24, well, we are multiplying by 8. 3 times 8 is 24. So if we do the same thing to the left-hand side, we multiply that by 8. 4 times 8 is 32. So the cost of a pen is 32 pence. And now we just need to work out the cost of 5 pens. So it's going to be 32 pence multiplied by 5. So let's just type that into the calculator. 32 times 5. And that is 160. And that is in pence. But we need our answer in pounds and pence. So it's going to be £1 and 60 pence. So let's just write that in. £1 and 60 pence. Question 17. There are 11 grams of fibre in 100 grams of oats. And there are 2.4 grams of fibre in 100 grams of banana. Rachel has 40 grams of oats and 60 grams of banana for breakfast. Work out the total amount of fibre in this breakfast. So if we look at the first line, it says there are 11 grams of fibre in 100 grams of oats. So if we just write down the ratio of fibre to oats, so fibre to oats, we've got 11 grams of fibre to 100 grams of oats. And now if we look at what Rachel had for breakfast, she had 40 grams of oats. So Rachel had 40 grams of oats. So we can work out how much fibre she had using this information. So what do we do to go from 100 to 40? Well, if we just do 100 divided by 40 in our calculator, what do we get? We get 2.5. So we just divide by 2.5 to go from 100 to 40. Divide by 2.5. So we just need to do exactly the same to the left-hand side. So divide by 2.5. We've got 11 divided by 2.5. And then let's just convert that to a decimal, is 4.4 grams. So she had 4.4 grams of fibre with her oats. Now let's do exactly the same for the banana. So let's do the ratio of fibre to banana. There are 2.4 grams of fibre or 100 grams of banana. And how much banana did she have for breakfast? Well, she had 60 grams. 60 grams. So let's do exactly the same thing. Let's work out what our multiplier is. So if we do 100 divided by 60, we get 5/3, or as a decimal 1.6 recurring. Well, I'm just going to leave it as a fraction actually. So we are dividing by 5/3. That is our multiplier, or our divider, you could say. So if we do exactly the same to the left hand side, if we divide by 5/3, so we've got 2.4 divided by 5/3, and we get 36/25. If we convert that to a decimal, it's 1.44. So 1.44 grams. So we know how much grams she has of fibre in her oats and in her banana. So that is so to work out the total amount of fibre, we just need to add them together. So it's going to be 4.4 plus 1.44. So we've got 1.44 here. So if we just add on 4.4, and we get 5.84. 5.84 grams. So that is our answer, 5.84 4. Question 18. Reflect shape P in the line y equals x. And this is worth 2 marks for this one. So the first thing we need to draw in is the line y equals x. So if I get my line tool out, so the line y equals x, well, that's just a diagonal line that goes through the point 0, 0, and it just goes like this here. Okay, so that is the line y equals x. So y is the same as x basically. So when x equals 0, y equals 0. When x equals 5, y equals 5. When x equals 8, y equals 8. So this is the line y equals x. So now we've got our line. That will be our first mark. We just need to reflect this shape over that line. And the easiest way I think of doing this is just to pick a point on the shape first of all. So let's do this in red just to make it stand out. Now to go to the line, notice we're going one diagonal to the line. So we need to go one diagonal the other side. So that point will be reflected here. Or the other way you could do it is to go you could go 1, 2 horizontally and then 2 down. And that's another way of doing it. But I think this is probably the easiest way. Now if we pick another point, let's pick this point here. Notice we're going 1.5 diagonally. So we need to go 1.5 the other side. So there's the half and there's another 1. So that's 1.5. And now if we pick this point here, we're going 1, 2, 3 diagonally. So we need to go 1, 2, 3 diagonally over here. And now we've got all of our points, we can just draw our shape in. So this is going to be our shape here. Unfortunately, you don't have a mirror in your exam, so I don't think you do anyway. You can't really sort of check it. But that should be our answer. Question 19. We've got the formula a equals 5b squared plus 6. Work out the value of a when b is equal to -2. Now this question you need to be really careful when you're typing it into your calculator if you do use your calculator. So we've got a is equal to 5 times b squared. Well, b is -2, so it's going to be -2 squared, and you'll see why I've put it into the calculator in a moment. And then we need to add on 6. So I can just work this out sort of, pen and paper, but we've got a calculator, so let's just use that. We've got 5 times -2 squared. So I'm going to put my -2 in brackets. -2, close brackets, squared. And then plus 6. And our answer is 26. So our answer is 26. And that is the answer I'm going to put down here. But just before I go on to the next question, I'm just going to show you what happens if you take away the brackets. I'm just going to delete brackets. We've got 5 times -2 squared plus 6. If we press equals, notice our answer is -14. And that's because what it's doing is it's doing 2 squared and then it's taking the negative of that answer. So always make sure whenever you're dealing with negative numbers, you put them in brackets first. Question 20. Franklin goes on holiday to Thailand. Franklin wants to change £750 into Thai baht. He wants to get as many 500 baht notes as possible, and the exchange rate is £1 for 42.87 baht. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I do apologise if I am. Work out the greatest number of 500 baht notes that Franklin can get for £750. This is worth 3 marks, this question. So he's got £750, and we can see the exchange rate is £1 equals 42.87 baht. So we can work out how much baht he needs. So we've got £750. What does that equal in baht? Well, £1 is equal to 42.87. So to work out how much £750 is equal to, well, we just multiply by 750. So we're going to do 42.87 times 750, not 75, 750. And let's convert that to a decimal. So that is 32,152.5 baht. 0.50, let's put a 0 in. So that is how much baht he can get for his £750. Now he wants them in 500 baht notes, so we can just divide this by 500. So let's do £32,152.5, not pounds, 0.5 divided by 500. So if we divide that by 500, and we get 64.305, so that equals 64.305. Now you can't have a decimal number of notes, so it looks like 64, he can get 64 notes, but not 65. So that would be our answer. Our answer would be 64 notes. Because the question says, work out the greatest number of 500 baht notes that Franklin can get. Well, he can get 64 notes. And just to check that's right, if we did 64 times 500, because each one is worth 500 baht, 64 times 500, well, that gives us 32,000 baht. And we can't get any more notes because the next one up from that would be 32,500, but we only have 32,152. So the maximum number would be 64. Question 21. Taylor wants to invest £15,000 for 3 years in a bank. It looks like we've got two options here of bank accounts. Which bank will give Taylor the most interest? At the end of 3 years, you must show all your workings. So we've got £15,000 to invest for 3 years. Now the first bank, Shield Bank, compound interest, and it's 3.6% for each year. So what that means is, so if we invest £15,000, so let's just write out here SB for Shield Bank. So we've got £15,000. If the interest is 3.6%, what will the multiplier be? Well, we're going to multiply that by 1.036. Be really careful here. It's not 1.36 because that would be 36%. So 3.6% is would be 1.036. That would be for 1 year, but we're doing that for 3 years. So that would be how much money he gets off at the end of 1 year. At the end of 2 years, we need to multiply that by 1.036 again. And then at the end of 3 years, we need to multiply that by 1.036 again. So that's how much he would get after the end of 3 years. So we're going to do 15,000 times 1.036. I could write out times 1.036 3 times, or I could just cube that. That's exactly the same as writing all of this out. And I get, I'm going to round this, so I get £16,679 and that'd be 2 pence, 0.2, because I've just rounded this 1 up to a 2. So that's Shield Bank. Champion Bank. So we're still investing 15,000. So it's going to be 15,000. Now it says 6.2% for the first year and then 2.3% for each extra year. So the first year is going to be 6.2%, so our multiplier will be 1.062. But then the second and third year, it's going to be 1.023. So that's the second year. The third year is going to be the same, 1.023. Let's put this into the calculator. So we've got 15,000 times 1.062 times 1.023, and because we're doing that again, I can just do that squared, and I get, very close, £16,671.21. So which bank will give Taylor the most interest? It would be Shield Bank, because this number is clearly higher than this number. So all we need to say is Shield Bank. That's all we need to say, and as long as we've got these two values, that will give us the 3 marks. We don't have to say how much interest, because the amount of interest will be slightly different. This isn't the amount of interest, this is the total amount of money he's got. So to work out the interest, we would need to subtract the initial investment of 15,000 from this value, It is not asking us for that, so we don't need to worry about it. Question 22. The table shows the probabilities that a biased dice will land on a 2, 3, 4 or 5, which we can see here. The probability the dice lands on a 6 is 3 times the probability that the dice lands on a 1. Fred rolls the biased die 200 times. Work out an estimate for the total number of times the dice will land on a 6. So first of all, we need to work out these probabilities. So we know that all probabilities add up to 1. So to work out what these two add up to, we can just take all of these away from 1. So we're going to do 1 subtract the sum of all of these. So it'd be 0.1 plus 0.17 plus 0.12 plus 0.09, and I will just pop that into the calculator. We get 0.52, 0.52. So these two must sum to 0.52, and we're also told that this one is 3 times the probability of this one. So if, for example, if this is x, well, this is going to be 3x, okay, because this is 3 times the probability of this one. And we know they add to 0.52. So we can say that x plus 3x is equal to 0.52. Or if we simplify this, that's just 4x is equal to 0.52. Therefore, x, we can just divide by 4. So we're going to divide that by 4. And we get 0.13. 0.13. So probability of landing on 1 is going to be 0.13. And the probability of landing on a 6, well, that's 3 times 0.13. So let's just write this down. 3 times 0.13. Well, that will give us 0.39. 0.39. So you can see that this one is 3 times bigger than this one, and they do add up to 0.52. So now we've got all of the probabilities, we can go on to the next stage. So he rolls the dice 200 times. Work out an estimate for the total number of times the dice will land on a 6. So the probability of it landing on a 6 is 0.39. And if he rolls the dice 200 times, the number of times he's going to get a 6 will be 200 multiplied by 0.39. Okay, and this is only an estimate. We're not saying that it's going to, be exactly this number, but it's the best estimate that we can have. So we're going to do 200 multiplied by 0.39, and that gives us 78. So that is our answer, 78. So again, we're not saying it's definitely going to land on 6 78 times. You can't say, it might not land on 6 any time. But that would be the best estimate. Question 23. Complete the table of values for y equals 2x plus 6 minus x squared. Now, on your calculator, there's a handy tool you can use which will give you a table of values. It's really, really good. I highly recommend you use it. So let me show you how to do this. At the moment, we're just in the standard calculate mode. But if we press this menu button here, you can see we're on calculate. If we go along to number 3, you can just type in 3, but I've just gone along to 3. You can see it says table. So this is useful for a table of values. So if we press enter, now we've got the equation that we're going to type in. We don't need to type in y equals because that's already given to us. That f of x is just the same as y. So all we need to type in, let me just highlight this on the screen here. All we need to type in is this into our calculator. So we've got 2x, so if we type in 2. Now the x button is this red x here. Okay, so this x in red, we need to press that. So because it's in red, we press alpha and then close brackets. That will give us 2x. And then plus 6 and then minus x squared. So again, we're going to press alpha, close brackets. That will give us x. And then because it's squared, we just need to press the squared button. So that is our formula. Press enter. Now this comes up. You don't need to worry about this. This is only if we're adding another equation. But because we've only got one, we can just leave this. So if we just press enter again, and now we're going to enter the values that we need. So notice we're starting at -2. So that's our start, -2. Press equals. Our end is 4. We press 4, press equals. And our step, what that just means is what are we going up by each time. So we can see that we're going up by 1 each time, so we can just leave that as 1. So if we press enter, and hey presto, it gives us our answers. So just be careful. Notice these answers we're going down, whereas here we're going along. So just be careful. So when x equals -2, you can see that y also equals -2. So this one is going to be -2. When x equals -1, y equals 3, which is what we've got, so we know it's correct. When x equals 3, y equals 6. When x equals 1, y equals 7. We just go down. When x equals 2, y equals 6, which we've already got. When x equals 3, y equals 3. And finally, when x equals 4, y equals -2. So you can see how, although it might take a bit longer typing in the formula, once you've got that, it's a lot easier, and it will just spit out all of your values, so you don't need to do any extra work. So I highly recommend using that table of values mode. Now, just before we go any further, let's go back to the beginning to calculate mode. So always remember to get off of this mode. So to do that, if we press menu, and then let's go along to number 1, calculate mode, and then we're back to normal. Okay, part B. On the grid, draw the graph of y equals 2x plus 6 minus x squared, which was the same as this equation, for values from -2 to 4. So we're just going to plot this information on our graph. So when x equals 2, y equals -2, so that is down here. When x equals -1, y equals 3, so that will be there. And then 0, 6 will be up here. 1, 7 will be up here. 2, 6 will be here. 3, 3 will be here. And 4, -2 will be here. So that looks right. It's a nice parabola shape. And now we're not going to use a ruler. We are using a curve. So it will look something like this. Make sure you do this in pencil. You know, if you want to rub it out, you can do. So this is the apex really of our curve. And then if we're coming down, I'm not doing a stellar job, but hopefully you get the idea. It doesn't need to be perfect, but you can see it should, as long as you've got the main points on, that will be absolutely fine. Okay, now use your graph to find estimates. Let's just highlight the keywords here. Find estimates of the solutions to the equation 2x plus 6 minus x squared equals 0. So this expression here is exactly the same as this expression, okay, but we're just looking, where does the graph equal 0? Okay, so instead of the only difference between this and this is that instead of y, we've got 0. Okay, so instead of y equals this, we've got 0 equals this. So we're just going to replace y with 0. So if we get let me just get a ruler out, or a line tool. So we're looking, where does this graph that we've drawn cross the line y equals 0? So this line I've just drawn in, let me do it in red, is the line y equals 0. So we just need to look at where the curve crosses this line. And you can see, let's do it in green. You can see that it crosses here and here, those 2 points. So what are those 2 points? So what are the x values? So one of the solutions, well, it's between -1 and 2. It's closer to -2. So I'm going to say -1.7. So just put -1.7. And then our other solution, well, it's closer to 4. I'm going to say 3.7. So 3.7. And these answers, there will be margin for error. Okay, so I would probably say they would allow anything between maybe -1.6 and -1.9 and 3.6 and 3.9. I'm not 100% sure, but something along those lines. Question 24. Use your calculator to work out this calculation here. Write down all the figures on your calculator display. So we've got our calculator here, so let's go through this together. So the first thing I'm going to type in is the square root button, because you can see that everything here is being square rooted. And then I'm going to type in the fraction button. So notice we've split this up into, we've got a numerator and a denominator with information split up between them. So in the numerator, my cursor is here. We can see that we've got tan of 20 degrees. So let's write that down. Tan, it automatically opens up the brackets. So we need to write 20 and then close brackets. And then plus sine of 25. So sine 25, close brackets. So make sure you do it like this. You're not doing tan of 20 plus 25. Tan of 20 and then plus sine of 25. And now we're going to go down into the denominator. Tan of 25, close brackets, minus sine of 20, close brackets. And then that's everything. Press equals. And we're going to write down everything here. So we are going to write down 2.515706913. And we don't need to write down sort of anything here. It's worth 2 marks. I'm not sure exactly how that's split up, but if you get the right answer, you'll get 4 marks for this. Now, part B, write down your answer to part A corrected 2 decimal places. So 2 decimal places, let's just write this number out in full again, 2.515706913. So 2 decimal places, so that's our first decimal place, that's our second. So if I just put a dash line here, we're going to be looking at this number here. And because this is 5, we're going to round this up. So instead of 2.51, we're going to round it up to 2.52. 2.52, so that will be our answer. Okay, question 25. Work out this calculation. Give your answer in standard form. Okay, so, well, first of all, let's just work out what this is. We can use our calculator for this. So if we open brackets, 2.16, and then multiplied by 10 to the power of -5. So this button here will enable us to put in our power. So if we type in -5 and then go down, and then we need to close brackets, and now we are going to divide by, open brackets, 2.5 multiplied by 10, and this time the power is -4. So again, click that button, -4, and we're going to come down and close brackets, press equals, and then let's change that to a decimal. So our answer for this calculation is 0.0864. But as you can see, this is not written in standard form. So we need to write this in standard form. And just as a reminder, when we write something in standard form, it's going to be something multiplied by 10 to the power of something. Okay, and this number here has to be between 1 and 10, but it can't equal 10. Okay, so if we just call that, let's just give it a letter A. So A has to be greater than or equal to 1, so it can be 1. It has to be greater than or equal to 1, but less than 10. So what number can we put in here that involves these numbers here? Well, the only number we can use will be 8.64. Okay, we can't use 0.864 or 86.4 or anything like that. So we're going to use 8.64. So it's going to be 8.64 multiplied by 10. But how many times are we doing that? Well, if we put our decimal point here, that's 8.64. We're not going to the right, so it's not going to be positive. We're going to the left. So 2 places to the left, so it's going to be -2. So this is our answer. Question 26. The density of orange cordial is let's highlight that as well, is 1.21 grams per centimetre cubed. The density of carbonated water is 1.01 grams per centimetre cubed. I think that should say a drink, not an drink, because that doesn't make sense. A drink with a volume of 280 centimetres cubed is made by mixing 1 part of orange cordial with 7 parts of carbonated water. Work out the density of the drink. Right, we've got a lot of information here and it's worth 4 marks. So we just need to take it one step at a time. So we've got a drink with a volume of 280 centimetres cubed, and that is made by mixing 1 part of orange cordial with 7 parts of carbonated water. So we're going to have to split up this 280 into 8 parts, so 1 plus 7. So we're going to do 280 divided by 8. Just showing you that, you know, if we've got 1 part of something with 7 parts of something, that's 8 parts in total. So we're going to divide 280 by 8. So let's do that. So 280 divided by 8 equals 35. So 35, that represents 1 part. Okay, so we've got 1 part of orange, so that's going to be 35. So orange is going to equal 35 centimeters cubed. And the carbonated water, I'm just going to put water for short, well, that's going to be 7 times 35. So times that by 7, we get 245. 245 centimeters cubed. Now, if we go back to the question, it says work out the density of the drink as a whole. Now, how do we work out density? Well, the formula for density, let's write this down. Let's do it in a different colour. Let's do it in red. So density, work out density, we do mass over volume. Okay, we do mass over volume. We haven't been told anything about the mass, so we need to work out what the total mass is. Now, to do that, we need to work out what the mass of each sort of part of the drink is. So first of all, let's focus on the orange. So let's focus on the mass of orange. So to work out the mass, we do density multiplied by volume. Okay, so I'm just rearranging this equation here. Another way you could think about it is you might see these triangles, okay, like this. So density is mass over volume. So to work out the mass, we do density times volume. So the mass of orange, well, the density of orange is 1.21. So it's going to be 1.21 multiplied by the volume. We now know the volume of orange. It's 35 centimeters cubed. 35. So let's get the calculator out. I'm going to do 1.21 times 35. And that gives us 42.35. 42.35. And that will be in grams. And now let's do exactly the same with the water. So mass of water. So the density of water is 1.01. Multiply that by the volume of water, which is 245. So let's type that in. 1.01 multiplied by 2.45. Well, not 2.45, 245. And that gives us 247.45 grams. So the total mass, we just add these together. So we're just going to, we've got that one, so we're just going to add on the other one. 42.35. And that gives us 289.8 grams. So that is the total mass. And we know the total volume, so now we can work out density. So the mass, so it's going to be 289.8 divided by the volume, which we know is 280. The total volume is 280. So we've got this. We're going to divide that by 280. And we get 1.035. 1.035. And that will be in grams per centimetre cubed. So 1.035 is our answer. So let's write that down here, 1.035. Now, just one tip, just to sort of sanity check your answer. If you're calculating the density of a whole drink, so something combined, it should be between the density of the two values. So you've got a density value here and a density value there. So the total density should be between these two because it's a mixture of both products. So it should always be between these two values, which you can see it is. Question 27. ABC is a right angled triangle. The point D lies on the line AC, which we can see here. We're told, we're given some dimensions, so let's write those dimensions in. AB is 9 centimetres. That's 9. BD is 13. So where's that? BD is 13. And CD is 4. So that is 4. So let's get our highlighter back out again. Work out the perimeter of triangle ABC. So ABC. So this perimeter here. Give your answer to 3 significant figures. So what information do we already have? We've already got AB, we're missing BC, and we're missing AD. Now, first of all, I can see we can work out this here, this length here, based on the fact that we've got a right angle triangle. So we can do a bit of Pythagoras here. So to work out AD, we're going to use Pythagoras' theorem. So it's going to be, so if we do the longest side squared, so 13 squared minus 9 squared. So let's work out what that is. So 13 squared minus 9 squared. That gives us 88. And obviously this side is not 88. Remember, we have to take the square root of 88. So we do the square root of 88, the square root of answer, and we get 2 root 22. I could write it as a decimal, but I'm going to leave it like this just because it's a bit tidier. So 2 root 22. So that is the length of AD. Let's write that in here. 2 root 22. Now, we can use Pythagoras again. So because this is also a right angle triangle, we've got this side. Now we've got this side because we can just add these two together. So we could say AC. So AC, but it's going to be this plus this. So it's going to be 2 root 22 plus 4. So that is the length of AC. So now we can use Pythagoras. So if we do 9 squared plus this squared, so I'm going to put it in brackets. So 2 root 22 plus 4, all of that squared. You can, if it's easier for you to use decimals, that's absolutely fine. But I prefer doing it like this. So let's type that into the calculator. We've got 9 squared plus, in brackets, 2 root 22 plus 4. Be careful when you're doing root 22. Don't just write plus 4, because otherwise the whole thing will be underneath the square root symbol. When you type in the 22, press the right arrow key. That will come out, and then press plus 4. Close brackets. Squared. So it's 9 squared plus all of that squared. And now, well, it does give it to us as a decimal. So let's just write that down. So 260.0466522, and then obviously we need to square root that. So square root, I'm just going to put square root answer. Don't need to write all this out again. So square root answer, and we get 16.12596.205. So we're almost there. That is this length. So let me just put it in green. That is this length. Now we need to work out the perimeter. So we just now need to add up all of our sides. So it's going to be 9 plus this length here, which is 2 root 22 plus 4, plus, I'm just going to put in here answer, because that represents this here. So we've got the green answer, so we need to add on 9 plus 2 root 22 plus 4. And again, this 2 root 22, if that is just confusing you, just write it as a decimal. And then press equals. And we get, let's do it in black. We need to give our answer to 3 significant figures. So it's going to be 38 point, is it going to be 38.5 or 38.4 or 38.6? Well, it's definitely going to be 38.5 because of the 0. And that is to 3 significant figures. So that is our answer, 38.5 centimetres. Question 28. A number m is rounded to 1 decimal place and the result is 9.4. Complete the error interval for m. Okay, these can be a bit confusing, but we've got the number 9.4. So m, the number we're looking for, has been rounded to 1 decimal place, and this is the answer. So let's think about what the smallest possible value could be is. So if we're rounding it to 1 decimal place and it's being rounded up, we need 2 decimal places in our answer. So it's going to be 9 point, And then the smallest number, well, it's going to be less than 4, so it's going to be 9.3. Now, if our number was, say, 9.32, you can see that if you round this to one decimal place, well, it's going to round down to 9.3. So it's not 9.32. If it's 9.33, that's still going to be rounded down. If it's 9.34, that's still going to be rounded down. But if we choose 9.35, notice that if we round this to one decimal place, that will round up to 9.4. So this, we would call this our lower bound. So our lower bound will be 9.35. Now if we think about our upper bound, well, we just do the same but in the opposite direction. So it's going to be 9.45. Okay, notice we've just gone 0.05 below and we go 0.05 above. So this is our answer. Our lower bound, let's write this in actually, so that is our upper bound. So here we've got 9.35 and here we've got 9.45. Now you might be shouting out, well, it can't be 9.45 because that would round up to 9.5, not 9.4. And you would be correct, but notice down here, we've got different inequality symbols. This means it has to be less than 9.45. So I'm not saying that it is 9.45. I'm saying that our number has to be less than 9.45. Whereas down here, it says greater than or equal to 9.35. So it can equal this number here. But basically, the easy way to think about it is all you do is you go 0.05 below and 0.05 above. Question 29. ABC is a right angle triangle. Calculate the length of AB. So that's this length here. Give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. So whenever you've been given a right angle triangle with some angles and a side length, always think about SOHCAHTOA. So let me just write down the SOHCAHTOA up here. SOHCAHTOA. Okay, now let's think about what information we've got. So as you can see, this is our angle here, and we're trying to work out this length. So let me just label it X. So this length, what name is this given where our angle is? Well, this is the opposite. So you can see that this here is the opposite side length. And this length, which we've been given, well, that is the hypotenuse. I'm just going to put hype for short. So we've been given the hypotenuse and we want to work out the opposite. So which one of these 3 trig functions involves the opposite and the hypotenuse? Well, it's this one here. So this is the sine function. So what have we got? We've got the sine of our angle. So the sine of our angle, sine of 38, is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. Well, the opposite is x, and the hypotenuse is 16. So we've got the sine of 38 is equal to x over 16. So if we just rearrange this equation, we're going to have x is equal to 16 times the sine of 38. Okay, another way you could think about it is, again, I did this with the previous question on density. You can have these triangles. A lot of people are used to these sort of formula triangles. I'm not the biggest fan, but they're helpful for remembering. So you've got the sine over here, you've got the opposite over here, and you've got the hypotenuse down here. So you can see that the sine is equal to the opposite divided by the hypotenuse. But if you're trying to work out the opposite, which is what we're doing, you do the sine of the angle, so the sine of 38 multiplied by the hypotenuse, multiplied by 16. Okay, so we're multiplying these together. So let's get out our calculator. So we've got 16 times the sine of 38. Remember to close your bracket. Equals, and we've got our answer here, and we need to write that to 2 decimal places. So it's going to be 9.85. Yeah, it's not 86 or 84, it's 9.85. So that is our answer. 9.85. Let's just do a quick sanity check. It should definitely be smaller than the hypotenuse, which it clearly is. So that should be the right answer. Question 30. Solve this equation. Okay, so first thing to do, let's expand some brackets. So we've got 3 times 2x, well, that will give us 6x. And then we do 3 times 1, so that's plus 3. So remember, everything outside the brackets, we multiply it by everything inside the brackets. And then equals. Now if we do the same thing to the right hand side, 4 times 5, well, that will give us 20. And then 4 times negative x, that's negative 4x. So now we've expanded, we can put all of the x's on one side. I'm going to put all of the x's on the left-hand side because there's more of them this side. So if we get rid of this negative 4x, so if we add 4x to both sides, what are we left with? Well, on the left-hand side, we've got 10x plus 3 equals, we've just got 20 because these two will just cancel. And now if we get rid of this 3, we can subtract 3 from both sides. And we'll be left with 10x is equal to 20 minus 3. That will give us 17. And now we can just divide both sides by 10 to get x on its own. So we're left with x is equal to 17 over 10, which is 1.7. So our answer is 1.7. Don't get freaked out if you get a decimal answer. A lot of people think, oh, I've got a decimal, so it can't be right, and do it again. There's nothing to stop it being a decimal. Okay, especially when you've got a calculator. Okay, so I'm quite confident that this is the right answer. Question 31. Each interior angle of a regular polygon is 150 degrees. Work out the number of sides of the polygon. Now, there are a few different ways you could approach this. The way I'm going to do it is I'm going to focus on the external angles because I think the formula for that is a lot easier. So if the interior angle of a regular polygon is 150 degrees, well, the exterior angle, well, it's going to be 180 minus the interior angle. So 180 minus 150, which is equal to 30 degrees. And now I know that each exterior angle is 30 degrees, I can work out the number of angles, or the number of sides, because I know that the sum of exterior angles is 360 degrees, because it's 360 degrees for any polygon. Okay, so if all of the angles add up to 360 degrees, and each one is 30 degrees, I can work out how many there are by just doing 360 divided by 30. Okay, and if I do that, I can see that that is 12. So that will give me 12 sides or 12 angles. So that is my answer, 12. So we've now come to the end of the paper. So hopefully you enjoyed that and hopefully you got a lot out of it. If you do have any other questions, please feel free to pop them in the chat and I'll try to get back to you as quickly as possible. And like I said before, I am going to be doing a paper 3 walkthrough as well. So after you've done your paper 2 exams, please feel free to come back to this channel and have a look at that video. So thanks again for watching and good luck in the rest of your exams. Take care.